Welcome home. We are WNST, Towson, Baltimore. Baltimore Positive. We are in Ocean City, Maryland. We're here on behalf of the Maryland Lottery. Our friends have given us the Gold Rush 7 Stubblers. I've been giving these away. They're giving them away on the other side. We're going to have some Raven scratch-offs by next week. On Friday, we're going to be down at Fadley's in Lexington Market. The Cheatstros are in town. Luke's going to be joining me. Mark Viviano is joining me at Coco's on the 4th of September to kick off the Oyster Tour. It's our 26th anniversary here at WNST. All of it brought to you by our friends at Liberty Pure Solutions, as well as Jiffy Lube Multicare. We're at MACo. We're in Ocean City at the Fish Pal Convention Center. Give me a chance to stretch out. We're having senators, congressmen, electeds, wannabe electeds, friends of ours stopping by. And I threw out an APB last week. I said, if anybody's down at the beach that I've never met, that I need to meet, let me know. And Dan wrote to me and said, my father-in-law does this cyber security thing, and I've had great conversations in the past. Dave Hartman from Hartman Associates invited us to a party up at Saltwater 75, the starter party down here. I've had Dutch Rupersberger on. He's probably the first guy to ever talk about cyber security. And now in a world of hacks, in a world of malware, ransom, all of that stuff, not to mention the Chinese and the Russians who were trying to get into us, as well as anybody else trying to screw up our lives here in America. We welcome Bruce Spector on. He's the chairman of the board of BCR Cyber, and he is here to teach me a little bit more about cybersecurity as well. Bruce, Marylander, Baltimorean, like all of the rest of it. I know you want to talk Orioles and Ravens with me. But it's more important that we talk cyber.
I think it is. I don't know if it's more important, but it's as important. And I do appreciate Nestor's cousin was Luis Aparicio, which is probably the best shortstop the Orioles ever had. So I'm thrilled to be
better
here,
than
Nestor.
Ripken? Better than Henderson?
Better fielder than Ripken.
Better than Belanger, you think?
Better complete ball player, in my opinion.
Hey, man.
He's certainly a better hitter.
I am not here to dispel any rumors or facts about the history of my cousin's baseball game.
There you go.
Well, I'm a little bit of a nut because I've been collecting Aparicio cards, so I'm into these really esoteric, weird things I can find on eBay. So I do appreciate my heritage a little bit, my Venezuelan heritage.
Oh, okay.
How does one get into cyber? Because you look a little too old to have been nursed to it. This is all a new thing for anybody our age, and I'll throw us in the same sort of generation. You're probably a little bit of a half generation ahead of me. So, but this is an important thing in America.
Yeah, it is, and it's a good question. And if you think about cybersecurity, it's really part of information assurance. And we've been doing information assurance for many, many years, particularly in the Maryland area. You've got the National Security Agency, you've got the government, you've got NIST, you've got NICE, and you have the U.S. intelligence community, which are very busy protecting your information.
Sure.
So it's all part of that. I'm an electrical engineer, and I worked in signal intelligence for a number of years.
What is signal intelligence?
So it's the gathering of signals and information that's out in the ether, things like broadcasts,
used
satellite
to be Morse
broadcasts.
code 100 years ago, right?
Well, Morse code is a communication technique, but the intelligence would be gathering the signals that have the Morse code on them.
Okay, sure. So this all changed with satellites, right? I mean,
well, it changed with communication improvements. You know, if you think about it, the computers have been around since the late 40s, and the computers have various communication schemes and distribution networks, and that makes them vulnerable to people on the outside that are not part of that.
Dude, I just tried to get my Orbic to work, to get me online. It needed an update. When it updated, it changed the name of the device. Crazy. I mean, just trying to stay ahead of... Just be in this room. How many Wi-Fi packs there are, right?
And it's only going to get more and more challenging for our society.
And if I happen to have my credit card in here, I mean, I'm afraid of it, Bruce. As a 55-year-old, I'm not nervous to it, but I don't use my phone as an Apple Pay. My wife does that with like certain apps and stuff and paying. I'm trying to use QR codes better and stuff like that. But I am always, with all the hacks on Facebook and all that stuff, I try to participate less in things I don't need to participate in so as to not be vulnerable.
So the best way to treat that is to understand it. The more you understand, the less afraid you'll be of what cyber is. If you think about it, information technology and cybersecurity, which is a subset of information technology, is very, very beneficial to our society. Computers and information technology make us more productive. So
in a million ways. I mean, from using Google Maps to get places fast, it's changed our lives.
And it's probably the best thing that could be said about information technology is that it makes us more productive. But that's the yin. There's a yang, and the yang is that if you have information technology, you're going to introduce processors. Processors introduce a tremendous amount of benefit to productivity, but it also opens the dark side, which allows other people to get inside.
There's a vulnerability here.
A vulnerability. And we need to be cognizant of that and make sure that we defend for it. And that's what cybersecurity does.
All right. So at heart, CBR Cyber.
BCR.
BCR. I'm not dyslexic. I just acted on the radio.
No
BCR Cyber. How old is this company?
Yeah, so
when did cybersecurity really sort of begin? Probably when you've got mail, right?
Well, no. I think cybersecurity became really prominent probably with the advent of the internet, in the late 70s, early 80s, because now you've got distributed networks and you've got people on the outside trying to get in. And there's now all the devices we have are considered endpoints. And when you have an endpoint, that obviously allows a bad guy to get in. So, if your phone is on the edge of a network, but that's an entry point. So we call that an endpoint. But that said, the cyber issues today are easily treatable. About 90 to 95% of the threats we have out there are known threats. There are people who have already done it. It's just a matter of you not being aware of how to protect yourself. There's databases out there that identify almost every threat known. We currently have somewhere around 10,000 known threats. Very few threats are not known. They're called zero-day. So if you have the right patches and you have the right software, it's very easy to protect yourself. It's the people that don't have those softwares and don't have those protections that leave themselves vulnerable.
What would you say? Because I remember all the McAfee this and and there were scams galore in that space as well. Just for a regular person, like in using your phone as a wallet, right? Like It's just something I don't do. I am freaky about sending passwords on email, ever using them in any of my ways, but then bank numbers and bank cards and credit cards, especially. Just the amount of fraud that's happening out online that used to take a gun and a mask back in 100 years ago.
It becomes a cybercrime. You have a point, and I think the best thing you can do in that regard is understand your security profile. And what I mean by that is, who would be targeting you? In other words, if you're an individual and you have a credit card, it's probably unlikely that you're going to be a target. There may be some general phishing scam that if you're not aware of, that may make yourself more vulnerable. But they're probably not going to be looking at that.
But I want to hear about data breaches and stuff.
Okay, so
when I hear data breach, I'm like, oh boy, here we go.
I think when you talk about data breaches, I think the best analogy in my mind is that some people don't see fire, don't see the light until their feet are on fire. And then when they've had the data breach, they realize there's things they could have done to prevent that. Things like, at an absolute minimum, making sure that your software is up to date. 99% of all software updates are patches about known threats that your manufacturer or the person that provided you that device is doing. So I would certainly make sure of that.
Always update the software.
As soon as possible. As soon as possible.
Because I often wonder when the software is up, I'm like, they're making new stuff. They're making new widgets I don't want to use. You're telling me, no, they're making it safer. Like,
they are. There's a reason why they're putting it out.
So you just taught me. That's the reason. It's your gift, Bruce, and being here is that because I just had a software update literally to this device while I was sitting here eating fried chicken.
Yes.
And the 10 minutes you went away trying to program the radio station, and in order to program the radio station from Ocean City, Maryland, I have the ability to do that. 20 years ago was unbelievable. I've owned the station 26 years. If you would have told me in 1998 that I could be sitting here on a device, operating, getting this piece on the air live, tape, whatever but it takes Wi-Fi, and it takes a software update to this device 10 minutes ago that restricted me. And I thought, what are they updating? It's fine. It was working. Why are they updating? You're telling me security.
99% of the time, there are some other benefits.
Makes all the sense in the world.
Yeah, because again, there's constantly new threats coming out. One of the things that people don't realize that they probably should think about, not regularly, but at least be cognizant of, there are many, many things today that have a microprocessor in them that did not have them in the past. And the microprocessor is what effectively automates your system. What makes your system computerized.
Is that the vulnerability in it now?
That's the access to the vulnerability. That allows access. It's a yin and a yang. That microprocessor makes you more productive. It automates your system. It eliminates human error. But it also opens a window. It opens a window to bad guys getting in and taking control of your system. And things that have microprocessors today never had them. Your home thermostat never had a microprocessor. Today it does. Your car never had a microprocessor. Today it does. And
it makes it hijackable to some degree, right?
It makes it vulnerable. It makes it. I wouldn't say hijackable is kind of an extreme way of saying it.
It can be penetrated.
It can. So we need to make sure as a society we look at ways to protect that. One of the ways we do that is, at a minimum, is updating the operating systems to at least treat the threats that we know exist. And that's one of the reasons why it's so important to make sure you update what your operating systems and your.
This is heavy stuff, but it's simple to some degree because we all have these devices. We're all our age, have a little intimidation level at some point to something about it. You know,
Absolutely.
We never feel like we've mastered it because it's like Roddy Piper. Once you've mastered it, they change the software. They change the, and then you have to learn things. And then there's just passwords in general. Bruce, I'm from Dundalk. I'm the village idiot here. By the way, Bruce Spector here. BCR Cyber, not CBR Cyber. What do I don't want to be too forward about passwords on the air, but
first of all, I want to say,
how often do you change them?
I have a number of friends in Dundalk, and they're very, very bright guys, so I'm not going to.
I want to meet them. I want to meet them. But I guess my point is I asked the dumb questions, but like the password thing, when you have passwords and there's vulnerabilities and there's been a breach of this or that, how often do you update passwords? And my thing with passwords is you don't want one for all of them, right? I have 25 different ones. Some are variations, and I have to figure out, is that uppercase, is that lowercase? Did I do that with a 1 in front? Did I do that with a pound sign?
So a password is a credential, and the credentials are necessary to get into your system. I want to tell you that the American Cybersecurity Institute has done studies, and somewhere between 90 to 95% of known threats are because of not protecting your credentials.
Wow. And so you want me to change this more often?
You at a minimum, you should be doing it monthly. At a minimum, all of your passwords should be changed. I know it's challenging, but your credentials are the reason.
That's hard. You're asking me to do something every month?
I want to give you an example of a credential compromise that caused us all problems. Do you all remember the Colonial Pipeline incident about a year ago?
I remember hearing about it.
And we basically had gas lines shut down because the bad guys had put firmware or malware into Colonial Pipeline's network
to shut it down
for denial of service. The whole reason they were able to access is they were able to access someone's live credentials. It wasn't a phishing expedition. It wasn't a ghost protocol. They just were able to access someone's credentials and got in and introduced the bad stuff, the malware. In this case, it was ransomware. So it's very, very important that you maintain good security on who has access, and you do not want people looking over your shoulder seeing your password or somehow seeing it broadcast on some protocol that's watching what you're doing. So it's very, very important you change your passwords on a regular basis.
That's heavy for me because I'm just into so many. Every Instagram, every bank, all that stuff. It's every email account, every website. It's
the hacker. One hacker approach is what is called password fuzzing, and what they do is they bombard your network with a number of passwords, and eventually, they may play games with your birth date, or they may play games with your kids' names and things like that. But they bombard it to the point where
never use your birthday.
Never use anything that associates with yourself ever. Make it as random as possible. That's why when you see the choices to have passwords, you see the strong passwords or passwords that make no sense. That's the ones that are best.
But there's the ones you can't remember. What about the change? Do you trust the change? Because I always get make your password one R I B uppercase, and they're like, I can't remember. I can barely remember the ones I've tried to institute that I make up for myself.
So,
I've got 75 passwords across maybe more, across things that I'm talking like airlines, apps, just different things,
So
right?
you can store your passwords in a secure wallet, or you can secure it in some area.
What makes
where
it
you
a
have
secure
them.
wallet, Bruce?
Well, there's applications that you can purchase that have secure. Apple Wallet is secure. They've done a lot of. They put a lot of money into making sure that it's relatively secure and not penetrable. So
you recommend that? You
I do recommend
that
that.
I use Apple Wallet?
I do recommend that. Apple Wallet's very safe. Very safe.
What else would you recommend in that way that I would look at and say, things that you use on your phone as an old fart like me that I don't know about, that like, this is a good Apple Wallet. My wife uses it. I'm scared to death of it.
Well, I do and then I do things like I actually write them down in a notebook, and I have a notebook in my desk
Okay,
drawer.
so you don't put it on. Okay, all right.
Now there's a vulnerability that if someone has access to your desk, they're going to see that. But very few people go into my home and actually see that. So I keep it at my home in a desk drawer. But I do keep them. I do keep my passwords stored.
How many passwords do you have to have in your life? 20, 30, 40? Nobody's got 5 anymore. Nobody.
You need more than one. There's no question about that.
Oh, my God.
No
Not just
question
more
about
than
that.
one password, but you're recommending a different password across every space, right?
I would not use the same password regularly. I would not recommend that.
Okay.
Because if you're compromised, you've compromised across the board.
Well, that's what my concern is. That's why I have so many different ones.
Yeah, the other issue, too, is multi-factor authentication. That is a big, big edge in these bad guys. If you have the option to have multi-factor, always choose that option. That does help your security immensely.
Well, everything I do with Google, I wind up getting a 6-digit code, or
That's
even when you want to buy a
multi-factor.
ticket on Ticketmaster, they send you a code to make sure you're you.
Highly recommend that. Highly recommend that.
And don't be offended by that.
No, it's worth the extra step. Believe me, from a security perspective, it's definitely worth the time.
Bruce Spector's here. He is BCR Cyber. I knew I would get some helpful hints out of you. At top line for everybody out there and what you do as a Maryland local company. Your son-in-law was proud of your work, but what do the regular people need to know about your company?
So what we do is we are actively involved in workforce development. In Maryland alone, there are 30,000 unfilled cyber positions. These are not jobs that need to be created. These are jobs that need to be filled, and we don't have qualified people to do them. So we make a great effort to do that. We have what's called a cyber range. We actually took a trip to Israel about 6 years ago. They did something very clever. They captured the threats that are out there, cyber threats. They created what they call an attack generator. They run those attacks on a network simulation, and they teach their people how to detect and mitigate that. We brought that system to Baltimore, and we trained unemployed and underemployed people that want to get into cyber and IT on those systems. And we've currently placed about 2,000 people in those jobs over the last 6 years.
Is this a STEM job?
Yes, it's certainly a STEM job. It's certainly part of STEM.
I would be underqualified. This is a specific. I mean, that's why there's so many openings, right?
Cybersecurity itself is a subset of IT, information technology. Very much like a cardiologist needs to be a doctor, you really need to understand IT before you do cybersecurity. So from that perspective, I think you would certainly qualify under STEM characteristics.
Well, I mean, and I guess for young people, if you have a child in that space or a teenager, to say this is not going away. It's like medicine. Like 10 years from now, there will be jobs in this space because you're never going to solve this problem, right? Certainly not internationally.
It's only going to get worse
until we have world peace.
Well, and hopefully we'll get that. But with the advent of artificial intelligence and newer techniques, it's going to be very difficult to keep creating cybersecurity that's safe. So it's going to be very challenging and very rewarding as a career over the next 30, 40, 50 years.
So that's really your message. That if you had a grandchild right now, you'd say, this is a good career. This is a place you can make a living.
It's more than just a living. It's an avocation as well as a vocation. If you like computers, you like computer technology, and you find it interesting, which most of the younger generation does today. They love working with their on social media, and they like working with their phones and like working with their computers. This is a phenomenal career that you could go into. It'd be very, very rewarding, very, very challenging, and also very lucrative.
Well, this has been rewarding. Thanks for your time. Did I
Nestor,
get everything in, Bruce? Did I get everything in?
You did. Keep up the good work.
You got any Orioles or Ravens for me? You got anything you want to lay on me?
Listen, nobody's a bigger Orioles fan or Raven fans than I am, so go O's.
All right, there he is, Bruce Spector. It is BCR. We get it right, BCR Cyber. These are the things that MACo is amazing. People say, what's down at MACo? It's people who own businesses in the state, doing business with the state, keeping us safer, making the roads run better. I mean, just every single part of it's down here where We're going to have Senator Cardin join us. We're also going to have Senator Van Hollen. All the folks have stopped by.
Incidentally, Senator Van Hollen and Senator Cardin just awarded the Maryland Association of Community Colleges a $2 million earmark specifically to put cyber ranges in the community colleges. They're doing a wonderful job.
I'm a community college graduate, CCBC. We didn't call it that then. We called it community college. CCC.
The range that I talked about,
DCC.
that brought in BCCC and CCBC will all get one. We'll get one of these
I'm going to get Dr. Curtinitis on here. We'll talk to her about it.
And that's due to Senator Van Hollen and Senator Cardin's earmark. So we thank them very much, and we're greatly, greatly appreciative of that.
You know what? I'll bring it up in a conversation with them when
do.
I have them on. We got football, baseball all weekend. Luke is doing his thing. The Maryland Lottery has us on the road with the Gold Rush 7 Stubblers. About to get the Raven scratch-offs next week as well. We're going to be down at Fadley's on Friday for the Cheats Throws. We're going to be on the 4th at Coco's. Mark Viviano will be joining us at Coco's on the 4th kickoff. The 26th year of our radio station, and we're going to do 26 oysters in 26 days, 26 ways across the bay. How many A's can I rhyme? Yeah, it all ends with an A. Today is another day. We're in Ocean City. 2 more days at OCMD. Back for more. We are WNST, AM 1570, Towson, Baltimore, and we never stop talking Baltimore positive.